Guys, it's a Chook man here once again. I'm going to be talking about filling in the gaps on my story. I just want to get something clear here because of my ABI. For people that don't know what ABI, it's called acquired brain injury. I talk from the heart as well, and I don't tell this story for any reason. The only reason I tell my story is to help other people that are suffering in life. That it's to spur them on and get them motivated, so when they're ready, they can do the same thing I did when they're ready. And don't forget, I was a chronic alcoholic. I've got pancreatitis. I've got bowel disease now, and quite other heaps of health issues that the Chook man's suffering from. And I'm hoping for out of all my stories that I've told, it helps other people on their way. It's called Hard Times Never Last. And it's so true, you know. There's a show on called Hard Times. Michael Krasilli or someone runs it. You can look it up. It's called Hard Times Never Last. He's I think he's a ex-police officer or he's an ex-solicitor, and he interviews people about their stories. It's okay, my music stopped. I wondered why. It's the internet playing up. So I'm going to fill in the gaps. Firstly, I want to state that my story about... just turn the music down a bit so you can hear me properly. I was the late 80s, early 90s. I was around St Kilda and the city and Fitzroy. I even met a lot of interesting people back then. That's where I met Uncle Jack Charles back in the 80s, early 90s. So if you see my story and you see some of the stories that I'm talking about, it wasn't the late 70s, early 80s. It was late 80s, early 90s. I was around the city, Steps, St Kilda, Fitzroy. I've been around for a long time. I'm 53, don't forget. Alright, so that's that part of it. I just want to talk about all the accidents and the assaults that the Chook man suffered. My first bad assault that I ever suffered was when I was working with horses in Jerilderie. Now, for all you people out in society that don't know where Jerilderie is, it's about 3 hours out of Melbourne. It's a small country town. I got a job there as a stable hand. And for all you people out there that don't know what a stable hand is, I'll just fill you in. I used to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and get the horses ready so the jockeys can race them around the tracks. I'd pick a horse out, I'd undo its tarp, its rug, put the saddle on it, give it to the jockey, then the jockey would come back in. I'd take the horse off him, I'd hose the horse down, I'd scrape the horse down, that means get the scraper and scrape all the water off him, put him in a room so he can roll around in the sawdust. Then I'd bring him back to his stable, I'd chuck his blanket back on, and then I would give him his food in a plastic bowl that hung on the actual gate, and then I'd go to the next horse. So that's the sort of work I was doing just before just turned 17 it was, when this first assault happened. I went to the pub, as you do. I had too much to drink, as you do. I got that paralytic. I didn't know what was going on or what I'd said or who I upset. And at the end of the night, I got kicked out of the pub and 4 blokes got stuck into me. They kicked my head in. I had a fractured eye socket. I had a broken nose. I had a fractured pelvis. That gave me a good kicking, a good going over. I reckon to this day, in my own heart, they tried to kill me. I had fluid on the brain. So the next morning, about 4 o'clock in the morning, a street cleaner found me in Jerilderie. He rang the local ambulance. They got me, um, took me to the Drury Hospital. My brain injuries were really severe. Don't forget, to crack someone's pelvis in half, you'd have to really give them a good kicking. And I was only 17, I was a teenager. These were grown men that done it to me, apparently, the police told me. These were 50-year-old men and older. I apparently said something, opened my big mouth, like you do when you're drunk, said the wrong thing, and they took the law into their own hands. Now don't forget, these were 50-year-old blokes against a 17-year-old skinny little kid that wouldn't know shit from clay, you know. So they gave me the biggest kicking in the head, in the whole body. They gave it to me. They flew me as they were flying me from Drury Airport to Royal Melbourne, clinically dead. They brought me back to life again. I died once in the plane. Everything shut down. And I want to talk about death as well. You know how they say there's a light beyond the end of the tunnel when you die? I'll be honest with you, there was no light with me. It was just like an old TV switching off. It just come to just like a light. I woke up in hospital. I was in Melbourne, a Royal Melbourne Hospital, in the real bad ward where you critically dead. You go to intensive care. I was in there intensive care for 3 or 4 weeks until they got me all working again. Then I went from intensive care to another part of the hospital. I had to learn how to talk, walk, function properly, you know. So that was pretty bad, that injury, what they did to me, these 4 blokes. Now, I don't give a shit, and I say it how it is. You got no rights to do that to anyone, let alone me. Even though I said the wrong things at the wrong time. It's water off a duck's back, man. Here's a 17-year-old kid that's pissed, that's got a big mouth, and what do? We just pulverise him and half kill him, and if he dies, we don't care? Well, I've got news for all you buddies out there that did it to me. You didn't kill the Chook man. The Chook man's still here. And I say that respectably too. You know, yeah, maybe I've said the wrong thing at the wrong time, but I didn't mean it. I was drunk. I was a dickhead. I was a teenage kid. What would a 17-year-old kid know shit from clay? He wouldn't. So, yeah, so that's that bad assault that I went through. Age 17. So what happened there, you'll probably ask, what happened there? I spent many years in Royal Melbourne Hospital. I had to go to anger management for 4 years. Because don't forget, my brain was scattered. It was gone. I had to go to rehabilitation every day. I had to learn to eat, talk, walk, you name it. The Chook man had to learn all this. And it was very mentally and physically draining, you know. You're in hospital, you can't walk properly, you can't think properly, you're always losing your anger, you know. It's a big step. When you cop a acquired brain injury, it is a big deal, man. You know, I can only talk for myself with my acquired brain injury, but I can guarantee you, no one wants to go through what I've experienced. Alright, so that's that assault that I went through, and the brain injuries that I've gone through. That's just one of them, and there's many more stories of wrong place, wrong time that Chook man's been through, and I try to put it all behind me and think that happened then, this is now. So I'm very blessed, I'm very lucky, I'm very grateful that I'm still here today in life around me. Um, and I also meet some beautiful people that have got big hearts. That's helped the Chook man on his journey and given me a lot of words of wisdom. I've met some real interesting characters on my journey that have made my journey a little bit easier than what it was back then. But I'm a strong believer is never give up. Always go forward in life. Don't ever go back. What happened yesterday is dead and gone, and what's happening today is the big thing. We because us human beings, we can be our own worst enemy. And I know you people out there in YouTube land understand what I'm talking about. So that's just one bad assault that I've been through, the Chook man's been through, age 17. There'll be many more stories to come of how I've got involved, how I've survived, how I've ended up where I am today, and that's left me with critical PTSD, and it's not easy when you've got critical PTSD. You have to keep a lid on it, and it's like a kettle that boils and boils and boils. You've got to put the lid on top of it all the time. I got PTSD out of that, and the way I was brought up as a ward of the state as well. So that's just a little bit of input about the accidents and the assaults that the Chook man's been through. There'll be many more stories to come. So my message to all you people out there in society, never give up and always go forward. You never go back in life. Alright guys, take care, and I'll talk to you all soon.